convergent charging, activate methodology, a product-based to a service-based model, incremental build approach to manage the contract lifecycle, usage-based billing.
Hello and welcome viewers to another episode of our podcast series Acuiti Talks, your go-to podcast where we delve deeper into some creative and very interesting insights about the world of business finance transformation. In this series and this episode particularly, we are continuing our conversation with our special guest Rishi, who is the lead and head of SAP practice at Acuiti Labs. So, welcoming Rishi once again.
Thanks, Shreya. Always excited to get into this conversation with you.
That's great. So I think throughout the episode 1, we covered a lot about BRIM, which is SAP BRIM, in somewhat details. But I think now the next step would be to give our viewers an insight about the more technical aspects of BRIM and what goes around when you do think about a BRIM implementation for a certain company. Would you like to shed some light on that?
Definitely, when we talk about transformation, we should talk about implementation as well. And for SAP engagements, including SAP BRIM, SAP recommends activate methodology, which we definitely have custom made for BRIM, because BRIM is a major transformation for any business, and we'll talk about this in detail when we talk about the different phases. Typically, any implementation would have 5 phases, starting with prepare. And as the name suggests, it's more about setting up the template for the entire engagement. This will involve setting up project goals, setting up the governance, defining the project standards, defining project charters, and then identifying the right people who should be engaged in, not only from the consulting side, but also from the business side, and then defining their roles and responsibility. Because one of the secret sources for a successful implementation is, I think, business involvement from day one. So if their roles and responsibilities is clearly defined, it definitely helps a long way. Right? So the prepare would start with a kickoff, basically to let the entire organization know that we are into this journey. And then after prepare, it's more about explore. And as the name suggests, it's exploration of what the current business is doing. So, and this is where Activate Plus comes in. We are a little different to how other companies operate. So rather than running through workshop, definitely we also do workshops, but our way of running the workshop is a little different. So what we do differently is that we have all those accelerators in our system, right? Or if customer is ready with their system, we try to implement one end-to-end scenario in their system, or we utilize our system to do that. So when we go into the workshops, right, we are not talking on the slides, or we are not having this plain conversation. We use the system to demonstrate how the things would look in the system. That makes the conversation very engaging, because the business is looking at how the new system would look like. And also they get the confidence that these guys are aware of the process. If they can show this, they can build it. So this is where we get more value from those conversations. So it's more about defining fit to standards. So we are not talking about the entire scheme of work. We are talking about there is something already implemented, what delta we need to do, right? That definitely gives a head start for us. Our implementation time is a little smaller than other engagements. So just because we use those accelerators or our way of doing explore, we are able to optimize the entire delivery plan.
Correct.
So explore would typically have those fit to standard workshops. solution validation, because once we have defined, and solution is the key,
Yeah.
right? So that validation is very important. Then it's more about refining the requirements, what delta has to go in,
Yeah.
and then basically at the end of the expo, we understand what will be the quantum of work, what is the scope of work,
Yeah.
and will it be a right approach to go a big bang for all the line of businesses, or we should have it phase wise,
Yeah.
right? And that all is discussed and decided in collaboration with the business, because finally they have to take that ownership,
Correct.
right, after the go live. So after this, it's realize, right? So at the end of prepare phase, we have a refined backlog, right, of what has to be done. We have got the RISE, a very technical word in SAP, which talks about what delta configuration or system build we have to do.
Yeah.
And when we get into the realize phase, this is where actual configuration or actual build happens. So we establish a solution landscape, wherein we start developing the solution on incremental build approach, right? And when I say incremental build approach, whenever we do a bit which can be demonstrated to the customer, we do demos of those scenarios to the customer, so that very early in the journey they get to see what their to-be solution is, and if they have any observation with respect to that or any feedback, that all is taken, refined, and next time when we come back, they can see that happening. So they are more engaged, they are giving that input. So that is one of the things. So realize is where a lot of tests happen, just to ensure that the component is working. Then we get into a system integration test, which is end-to-end, because if you talk about usage-based billing, right, the uses will be coming from somewhere. Correct. So that integration also has to be tested. It's just an example. If you go into actual scenario, there could be multiple systems to which SAP BRIM would be talking to. We do have experience of integrating, say, CPQ, not only from SAP, but any other CPQ. On multiple engagements, we have integrated with Salesforce as well, because there are companies who are using Salesforce for their contract management. So we have experience of integrating that seamlessly with BRIM, which is again very niche. Very few SIs might have done it, and we have experience with that. Then we also strategize and start working on data migration and the plan around the cutover. So typically realize phase would be a long phase in which we are building the solution on an incremental basis for the customer. Once we are done with, it's more of a deploy. And as the name suggests, we are deploying. So we are moving, so production will be set up. We'll move all the code configuration to the production system, and then it will be migration, the master data, customer master data, transactional master data, and then a cutover as well. So there'll be some processes, some customer in the journey, right? And we are talking about cutting the old system and moving to. So all that will be moved to the production system, and then the focus is more about stabilizing the system. Any new system will have its own challenge, and as I said in the previous podcast, that change management is also required, right? So somewhere during the realize phase, that training to the wider business user group is also required, so that once we are in the production post deployment, they also, because they have to run the system, so they should know, and all that training, we follow this train the trainer approach, wherein our people would be training a couple of senior folks within the team, and then it will be their responsibility to just extend that to the wider business groups within, which is more effective because of the communication, the language. It's not necessarily we are working in English speaking country. If there are a few European country, let's say, then they talking to their business user group. It makes more sense than we are doing that. After deployment, as I said, it's more about stabilizing the system, which is called run phase. And then after deployment, we have a hypercare for typically 2 to 4 weeks, wherein we try to complete one financial closure, right? Which actually means the invoicing is done, financial closure is complete, and business get the sense that yes, it's working for them. So once we are done with the hypercare, we start transitioning to the AMS team. As an organization, we also provide AMS services for BRIM customers on a managed service model, which is a new concept wherein customer doesn't have to pay for dedicated resources. So what we have seen is there are engagements which are typically heavy on the finance side. There could be engagements which are complex on the contract side. So depending on the nature or where the complexity lies, customer doesn't need to have dedicated resources, even though there are not much issues to deal with. And this is where our offering in this space is also very innovative in a way, I would say, because what we agree with the customer is a baseline FTE mode. Based on that committed FTE, business based on their requirement can request for, let's say, more on the finance side, less on the contract side. So they have that flexibility depending on, and also let's say when we are towards the financial closure or month end, definitely the focus will be more about financial closure, right? So at that point in time, they can request for more people or more availability of people on the finance side. Whereas through the month, if they are talking about more of customer acquisition, they can request for. So that all can be planned. So customer in a way is not paying for dedicated resources. They are paying optimally for what they are using, right? So the way we were talking about usage-based model in so something very similar in the AMS offering from our end.
That's interesting. I think in a way you very beautifully captured the entire Acuiti approach towards our implementation services and overall. So thank you for that. That was really great. I think moving on, what we can cover is probably for the viewers, let's say the technical people and CFOs of the world who are actually maybe looking to implement BRIM. Maybe if you could shed some light over the key components of BRIM, because I think we have covered lots from the implementation perspective, but if we want to get into more technicalities, would you like to shed some light on that over the key components of BRIM?
If we talk about the entire BRIM suite, it will have 5 or 6 components to it. It starts means there is a module which is called subscription order management. As the name suggests, it's to manage the contract lifecycle. Not only managing, it also tracks the services usage. It's specifically designed to support order process for a combination of physical good, services, subscription, which enables the transition from a product-based to a service-based model. This is what we are trying to achieve through BRIM implementations, right? It would also support your different type of product modeling, pricing modeling. It also maintains the master service agreement, which need to be done with all the customers. It also supports quoting and capturing the order in the system, and then also has functionality for revenue sharing, because every organization have subcontractors or agencies working for, and BRIM also facilitate revenue sharing. So let's say for a customer, you use someone else's service, you don't want and we want to track it, right? So if you're talking about process automation, even that should be automated, right? So what service customers avail and what your third party or vendor have service to the customer, everything is getting captured and what is their revenue share is automatically calculated the moment the service is provided. So when we talk about the process optimization, we're not talking only from the company per se, but also anyone, means any vendor engaged in, also becomes part of that automation process. Yeah. Then the second component is conversion charging, a very powerful tool. It's a no-code tool which is designed to manage customer pricing and also supports partner revenue share. It operates at a very low latency, a high volume, and is highly available. Correct. It also offers allowance management for the service and product, because we are talking about not only B2C but B2B as well, wherein the products could be complex. And they, even in B2C scenarios, right, there are allowance scenarios which all gets managed through CC. Very strong, very powerful tool for any type of pricing you want to build in. No code means no code required. It's as strong. Third component is basically convergent invoicing, which is, as the name suggests, it's an invoicing tool which enables billing and invoicing of all the priced or charged item which has come or flown from convergent charging. It facilitates the creation and distribution of consolidated and personalized invoices. Correct. We talked about B2C and B2B, right? When we talk about B2C, you can have a generic invoices going to the customer. But if we are referring to B2B, every customer can have their own aggregation or grouping logic. All that is feasible using CI. So if you have different contracts, if business is looking for a different grouping rules, all can be customized within CI. CI also has a very powerful process which is called performa invoice, preliminary invoice, which is a stage before the actual invoice. So that, again, B2B scenario wherein we have to be very careful about what we send to the invoice, because if the invoices are of, let's say, $1 million, we need to review it carefully. Otherwise, if it gets into dispute, then your DSOs will get impacted, right? So very powerful, because you get to assess the components of that invoice, and then with this feature actually the chances of disputes reduces significantly. And just on the off track, even the dispute management system in BRIM is very powerful. So when we talk about this B2B scenarios, the invoices could be of $1 million. If there is a dispute for, let's say, one service or two service, we should not hold the entire invoice, correct? And BRIM's dispute management offers wherein customer can dispute on the line items, right? So that at least only that is disputed, and customer can pay for the entire money, which is win-win, good for the business as well, because the entire invoice is not outstanding, right? The next component is contract accounting, which primarily is the ledgering system. So once the invoices are done, all the other business processes, from their accounting to the payments facilitation, payments would mean all the online payments, refunds, payment failures like returns, then write-offs, all means debt collection process, everything is managed through a module within BRIM. Then we are talking about this usage thing, right? BRIM is not meant for usage. Usage will definitely be coming from a different system. It could be a terminal operating system, for example, for a port industry. It could be a AODB for airport industry. So we've got a middle layer which is called convergent mediation, which is primarily for data acquisition, and again it's a very powerful tool, though it's from digital route, but it integrates with BRIM as if it's a native product of SAP. So a lot of enrichment, a lot of validation can be enabled within convergent mediation, because of which the data which is coming to the system for charging, billing, are validated and we are getting correct, mature data, wherein the chances again of reducing disputes or error invoices reduces significantly. So these are primarily the modules within SAP BRIM. From the offering perspective, depending on business requirement, right?
Yeah.
Everyone talks about value for money. So SAP is also have been offering modular way, or you can even say the a la carte way of selling things. So not necessarily we need to buy the entire full suite of BRIM. We can pick and choose what we want. So there are organizations who are only, let's say, using CI. There are organizations who are using only FICA.
Yeah.
They are using CI FICA. So it's CCCI FICA. So all sort of combination is available. Totally depends on what a customer wants, so that they are not paying for what they are not using, right?
Okay.
And then BRIM sits over S4, right? So one of the basic integration requirement is that FICA acts as a subledger, and as a standard integration process to the FI. I'm a little getting technical, but the FI every day end we consolidate whatever has been invoiced within the system, whatever payment has been received in the system, and only the consolidated entries pass to the main FI GLs. So that way the volume of data flowing from the subledger to the main ledger is controlled. Yeah.
I think that is a very interesting sort of approach or thing that we are currently following. And if we think about it, we Acuiti Labs are the leaders in BRIM. So I think it reflects very nicely how you portrayed the entire process and the components, and also the fact that we have a few unique approaches that we follow when we do look at different clients. So that, I think that was very insightful. Thank you for that. And I think I wouldn't call it an end, because we do plan to call you again and talk about another, kind of expanding on this topic that we are currently talking about, and maybe talk more about the challenges that companies might face during the implementation stage, and probably where the future of this product is headed. So very excited to have that conversation with you. But I think until then, it was really great to have you on board today.
Thank you, Ria. Thanks a lot, and a good conversation, and hope to see you again in the next episode.
So with that, viewers, we call an end to our episode 2 of our series Acuiti Talks. We will definitely come back with another episode for this series, which will highlight more of the challenges and the future of where BRIM is headed, as well as what Acuiti is going to bring to the table. So until then, we'll see you soon. I'm your host Ria. Goodbye. Thank you.